easily man of the match for me.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, chaps. Welcome to the Green Arrow podcast, proudly sponsored by Sorare, the revolutionary new fantasy football game where you can win tickets to a Premier League match by entering and winning our Sorare Premier League mini league. If you enter for free via our exclusive link in the description below, in addition to your standard free cards, you will get a free limited card to also enter in your team, but only if you sign up via the link below. The mini league pin is also in the description below. The very best of luck, and don't forget, the winner gets a pair of Premier League tickets to a match of your choice. Go ahead and join the fun. It is for absolutely free. On to FPL, and welcome back to Adam. Adam, what colour was your arrow in double game week 27?
Quite unlike every other podcaster and content creator, I got a green arrow and scoring a rare 105 points.
105,
so,
boom.
Yeah, exactly. Slightly marred by one of the decisions I made. I was very close to starting Martinelli over Saka, and I decided I played it safe basically, so I deserved what I got. But I think I'd noticed that Martinelli, particularly in the Europa League, was getting all the chances, and I think with the same front three again the weekend and the movement with Trossard, it's I should have gone for that, but didn't. So green arrow, fairly happy, and looking forward to this game week.
Just quickly, does this turn your wildcard last week into a good move, or do you still think wildcarding this week would have been the move?
No, I still stick by the timing of the wild card, and I think also a lot of people that wild carded this week probably went with Salah and didn't score as highly. So it'd be interesting to see over the 2 weeks. But I said last week I was confident that people that wild carded would bounce back. I had no doubts. The team looks so good, and with fixtures like Kane at home to Forest. Obviously Haaland returned as well. The Brighton and Brentford boys did well. So it was, it was sort of what I expected to happen, I think.
Good stuff. Welcome back, Rich, as well. Great to have you back. What colour was your arrow in double game week 27?
Hi, everyone. Spookily, I scored 105 points as well. Don't know if there's any correlation between what we do and what we've scored, but 105. There was some tweets going out about the sheer number of content creators who scored 105, and therefore we all obviously have the same team or similar teams. Just harping back to last week, we were the pariahs for having prescribed the worst possible wildcard selection
in the history of man.
Which then in the history of man, but then goes ahead and scores 105 points, and we're still being panned now for copying each other and colluding. So you can't win, can you? But 105, great score. I mean, I think last night the Brentford and Brighton scores and outcomes and scorers were just a sort of perfect.
It was, wasn't it?
FPL
It was very good
for those 6 players. The defensive and attacking combinations. Vindication finally for Solly March. I think many people probably tuning in have taken one side or another on the Solly March debate. Clearly, he had an extra goal added after the FPL deadline, and therefore his points couldn't be added to his score. So there was a lot of whinging going on, a lot of complaining, a lot of petitioning the government for the reinstatement of his points. But in the end, he scored again, and all is well, and it's a green arrow for me too. So very pleased and very happy with the team. Hardest thing, I think we'll get into some details soon, but the hardest thing is who to sell from the team, and
indeed,
rather than who to bring in. So how did you get on, Ferg?
Just quickly, Wildy in the chat has just said opportunity to bench boost spaffed by Rich Clarke. So I was very close to bench boosting. I didn't have Gabriel, I had Zinchenko. I would have scored, although I had 7. I would have scored 17, which I think would be a fairly decent one. But looking at 29, I think it's worth the gamble to go and get high, if you know what I mean. So I'm happy to pass on 17. But yours is a bit more, Rich. You had 25 points.
Yeah, Gabriel, third on the bench. He was
26.
never going to get on. And I mean, you buy a player like Gabriel because you know that once or twice a season he's going to pop up and score a headed goal, right? And so therefore have him benched at that moment is lucky. It's unlucky. I don't know. To be honest, I never set up for a bench boost in 27. I always set up the team with an eye on 29, despite the risk. But I know Ben Crellin, who's been on the show a couple of times recently, he bench boosted, and I think he's got a game week rank of something like 854.
Scored 134 points.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So well done, Ben. And anyone who did bench boost probably did very well because of their Arsenal defenders and the second goalkeeper getting some returns. So yeah, good week, very good week to bench boost. Not sure we'll match that in 29, but we still have the chip.
It's difficult to say, isn't it, though, because until we get to 29 and we see, because if we look at 29 benches, could potentially have the likes of Kane, Haaland, Saka.
Well, Haaland could get that by himself, couldn't he? Given his form, we'll touch on that in a bit.
Exactly. So I think it's a really tough call either way. But yeah, well done to everyone that did bench boost and do well this game week.
Indeed. I just scored a measly 103 points. I think the only difference was I had McAllister instead of Mitoma, but other than that, we're looking incredibly similar. I had Zinchenko instead of your Gabriel, Rich, but all much of a muchness.
On the show last week, though, Ferg, you were saying you were going to bench boost.
It was just Odegaard.
I thought you had.
Adam thought you had.
I genuinely thought you had.
You actually congratulated me
I thought you
after
had.
the Arsenal game. It was the Odegaard flag. Otherwise, I would have. He was flagged, wasn't he? So I'm not going to do a bench boost on a single game week player with him flagged. So because he was ill on the Thursday, and then obviously he started, and obviously he scored, which these things happen, don't they? But I do think 17 points is worthy of a gamble onwards. I wouldn't, if you say I'd have 17 points. I mean, to have 17, you might as well have 10 in my view. It's not. It's not the massive upside you would actually hope for. So I'm happy to park the 17, and you've got a fortnight of excitement now of looking forward to the bench boost in 29 and everything that brings. So yeah, happy to pass. Quickly before we move on, just want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Nacha Tech is in, Johnny A, Christian hasn't been on for a while, Immortal, Treknique, Colin Buger, John Tyner, Jack B, Colin Johnston, so many people in. Steve Sedman finally in the 100 club this season, very well done. G Davidson says, hope the arrows were green. They were indeed green all round this week. Oberis, happy with the good game week, my best rank. Thanks for the help. Ron is joining from San Francisco. Vicky is in. Super Tiger is in. Just a dad posting stuff. What a day. He says, internet out from 6 a.m. Crap day at work. Car broke. £500 bill. But 105 FPL points and this podcast. All is good with the world again.
105.
And
again.
Dan Megan, fellow Welshman. Afternoon from Cheltenham Races. Very, very jealous there, Dan. James Hardin says, great to see we've all recovered from the double game at 26. Chip spaffing with a successful 27 indeed. Belfast Brunch. FPL top bins feels, I feel like I've been shortchanged a hub mug after the March points issue. And Gavin Rand says, violin for everyone who had Gabriel on their bench indeed. And finally, Aidan just says, this is Ben Crellin's world and we are just living in it. Indeed we are. There was something earlier. Owenson asks me this every week. He's harking back to something we were saying about 18 months ago where I used to do like daily streams pre-season. He always says, Fergie, say FPL rubber ducky. So that's just for you there, Owen. FPL rubber ducky. Just one for you there. Okay, we've got the fixtures on screen now from fantasyfootballhub.co.uk from 28 onwards. Obviously 28 is a blank. West Ham, Man United, Brighton, Fulham, Liverpool and Man City, all blank. Very, very popular teams in there. So hopefully everyone listening has prepared themselves for 28. Massive double game week 29. I've got to be honest, chaps, I haven't really taken much of a look from game week 30 onwards just because we're so focused on optimising this period. So this is the first time I've really looked at 30 onwards and 31. We know 32 is going to be a blank as well. But if I come to you, Adam, first, just looking at the next kind of week or two, what are your thoughts on, on how to approach these next 2 or 3 game weeks?
I mean, very, very team dependent, but I think there's one team that we should be talking about who are top of the fixture ticker, and that's my team. So I think it'd be rude not to start there.
Positively remiss not to start there, Adam. Absolutely.
It would be, really. It would be. I think Villa's fixtures for the next for the next 5 or 6 game weeks are very good.
They are.
I think so for those that haven't got access to them, they've got Bournemouth this week at home. They've then got Chelsea and Leicester away in 29, and then Forest at home, Newcastle at home, Brentford away, and then Fulham at home. So
lovely home games, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, but we're good on the road, and we've done very well under Emery. So for me, Ollie Watkins is in my team, and I would drop anybody to get him in my team. That's the level that I'm at with him. He's on, which we might come to at some point, but he's playing so well at the moment. He's playing but he's getting. I mean, since Emery's come in, I think he's scored. He's been of the 16 goals that Villa scored when he's been on the pitch. He's been involved in 10 of them, so he's proper talismanic for Villa. He's getting some decent chances. He's probably slightly better away, but I think there's good home games in there. So, and it was interesting. He was talking in an interview about how he'd spoken to Moreno just before he scored about getting balls in early, and he probably one area of his game which is really underrated is his heading ability. I mean, he scored a decent header against Liverpool since the return. Southampton, a good header the weekend, and I think Pickford denied him with a wonder save. But he's very good in the air, and he's just sort of movement in between defenders. So, for me, easy buy for Watkins this week. I think.
Are you no longer worried about this chap who had an injury that you said
Mari?
was limiting his output?
Well, no, what my point on that was, and because we didn't know, and he could be back. I mean, it's possible this weekend, although maybe after the international break will be the earliest. Yeah, Kamara is really key to how we play, but I think with the fixtures, I think Villa will score regardless. We scored in every game under Emery, and we're creating chances. So I think it's of course we prefer him in the team, and I think from a patterns of play will be better. But I haven't seen the West Ham game. He had 3 decent chances. He looks very, very sharp. I can't put anybody off Watkins. I think he's I wouldn't say he's a must buy, but I'm excited about getting him this weekend.
I know from other formats as well. He has so many shots on target, doesn't he? He has like 3 or 4 shots on target. He has had a lot of shots target recently. I know from Sky, because they're always going on about his shooting bonus that you get for shots on target. So he's clearly getting the chances. He's clearly hitting the target, and as you say, some saves have stopped him scoring more.
He had pre-season. He had a finishing coach, and it was obviously the aim to help him go to the World Cup. But I think he's really, a lot of his goals, particularly some of the ones from angles, he's really taken on the lessons in terms of how he's striking the ball. So I think the other element as well is he thrives on being the main man, and I think with Ings there, it sort of stole his thunder a little bit. So I think Watkins is a great buy. I'm not as confident on the defense, but purely because of Kamara. But yeah, I think Watkins for Villa. If you're free hitting, get him in, and in fact, if you're not free hitting, get him in.
Second on the ticker is Chelsea, and we'll talk about some of their assets in a bit. Third, interestingly, is Leeds. I noticed Rodrigo was back, and he played a few minutes last week. I only noticed because he came up in the Hub wildcard team, the Hub AI one, which really surprised me because I didn't even realise he'd come back. But Leeds away to Wolves in 28. I don't think there's any kind of rush to get in there, but next 2 fixtures after that, pretty good. Got Dublin 29, away to Arsenal, home to Forest, home to Palace in 30 as well. Do think Rodrigo could come back into the reckoning in a couple of weeks' time, and and then there's Leicester and Bournemouth. Obviously, down the bottom at the moment, we've got Man City, Liverpool, and Brighton stuff because most of them are blank in 28 and only Brighton double in 29. So teams like Man City and Fulham and Brighton and Liverpool are not really high on ticket at the moment. But just in terms of 28 specifically, for those who have maybe got, I don't know, 6 or 7 players, those maybe haven't planned as much, for those who haven't wildcard yet or used a wildcard a bit early, do you think the free hit is actually an option for this week, or would you say just kind of muddle through, or is it dependent on whether you're well set up for 29 anyway?
Well, I think if you've got around 6 or 7 players, I think it's perfectly good idea to use it this week.
Okay.
I think if you've got, that's a long way short, and that's assuming everybody you've got in your team has a decent fixture and will play, right? So if you've got 6 or 7 and they're not the right 6 or 7, and they may be, unlikely to start one of the games, then you could find yourself with 4 or 5 quite easily, and that would be, you're going to give yourself a good hiding there. So definitely, if you're down on players, don't be afraid to use the free hit this week. I think if you've got 8 or 9 players, or can get to around 10 players with transfers, then that is also fine. That's very different to saying, it's fine to go with 7 or 8. I think it's fine to go with 9 or 10. But again, it's the quality of those players rather than the quantity of players. So like, Rico Henry, I know someone, Adam, that you're maybe thinking of moving on because Leicester are likely to score. So what are you risking by moving him on? Maybe 2 points. So other players, but players who've got away games, people like Tarkowski's in a lot of teams, away to Chelsea, you can't be expecting to get too much out of them, even though they're going to make some appearance points. So, it's about the quality of players. You need to be covering the key games like the Villa game, the Spurs game, the Arsenal match against Palace. You need to have quality assets from those ties, really. So it depends on not just the number of players you got, but the quality.
I need to just speak up a little bit there, Rich, if that's okay. You
Sorry, buddy.
drifted off into silence then almost. Let's have a quick chat around Erling Haaland. It's a very obviously five goals in the Champions League midweek. Adam, you went to the match. We'll touch on that now. But obviously he blanks in 28, home to Liverpool in 29, which people were looking as, let's just skip that one. Away to Southampton in 30 and home to Leicester in 30. Well, we also know that he's likely to double at least once later on in the season as well. Just got a few stats on screen for him. Just his stats for the season. Pretty insane, really. 26 appearances, 28 goals and 6 assists. 90 shots, 44 on target, 84 shots in the box, an XG of 22, an XA of 7. 43 big chances, 9 big chances created, 19 key passes. I mean, the guy is just an animal, right? And this obviously doesn't include his 5 goals in midweek. I think all 3 of us, it sounds like, are fairly split on our approach to Haaland, because obviously he blanks at 28, so he blocks a potential 11th player and 3rd forward in 28. Adam, you went to the game at the Etihad midweek. What did you see?
Well, firstly, it was an incredible performance from Haaland, and we were the side of the first half, so it had quite a good view of the first half, and his movement's incredible. There were a few balls from De Bruyne early on that he just missed, and he's just in and around the 6-yard box. That said, I do think the defending from Leipzig was horrible, particularly set pieces. They're not a particularly tall team, and you could see that with particularly with some of the headers won from the likes of Haaland and other players. And City obviously play with 4 centre backs, so they created absolute carnage on set pieces. The penalty was fairly dodgy as well. So I don't think. I know Liverpool would have dealt with a lot of that, even though they can be erratic at defending sometimes. They'd have dealt with a lot of those set piece situations differently. And you only have to look at Newcastle a couple of matches ago. So I think there is a recency bias. It was very, very easy for City, particularly physically. So I've looked at this. I think it's easy. Haaland's quality, and there's no risk this week other than maybe losing a little bit of value. But we're getting to the part of the season where, as soon as our bench booster's gone, we can go cheaper on the bench, so we don't need to worry about that as much. So I think looking at it, I think the absolute best situation is Haaland gets a hat-trick versus Liverpool. I don't think it's likely. I think he gets 1, possibly 2 returns. So I would guess he probably gets a goal against Liverpool, maybe gets 6 to 9 points. Obviously, it could go up to a hat-trick, but even if it goes up to a hat-trick, let's say he gets 17 points, I'm bringing in Ollie Watkins, who will have 3 matches. So he only needs probably 2 returns over those 3 matches to pretty much get the 17 points back when you factor in bonus. So I think and he's in good form, and he's somebody that I definitely want him for the Forest game going out. So I think in FPL it's important to be flexible. So I think it's fine to sell him this week. There's no real risk, but people that have got Tony, he could get booked, which would make an easy solution to bring Haaland back the following game week. It could be that you decide anyway, you don't want to run the risk of Tony getting booked and you'll just do it regardless, but you've got the option to bring him back. So I don't really think there's too much risk with this, if I'm being honest. And, so I'm all for trying to get the points this game week. I want Watkins for the double anyway. So, and the game's going out. So I don't really see any risks of the move.
Yeah, interesting. Rich, you were slightly thinking the other way, I believe, in terms of keeping early.
Well, I think for the sake of the discussion, I think personally, I
You've talked him into it, Adam.
Decided. I haven't decided to sell Haaland, and I haven't decided to fully buy Watkins yet. But it's clearly an option, and Adam's presented a very good case for doing that. It's by no means an essential move that fantasy managers need to make this week. If you are a cautious manager, one thing I'd say is if you want Haaland for that single game week against Liverpool because of his form, because of what he can do in 53 minutes to score 5 goals. He doesn't need 2 matches in game week 29. So if you want him against Liverpool, you think that City have a home game where they perform much better than away, and you want him, then absolutely find another transfer this week to do. And there are at least 2 or 3 other very good options that we'll discuss later in the program, and make one of those and just put Haaland on the bench. You might have to sell one of your Brighton players, or you might have to sell a player that you don't really want to lose this week in order to put Haaland on your bench. But there's nothing wrong with doing that. You'll save about 0.3 to 0.4 million of money, which could make a difference later in the season when you're trying to get to a player. I agree with Adam. It's probably findable because Tony is more expensive than Watkins, for instance. And, we'll discuss how to move around. But it is still money, and you've still got accrued money that you can use elsewhere on other transfers. So those are some reasons for not selling Haaland. And also, it's the other transfer. You've got another transfer that you've got to use potentially in game week 30 on bringing Haaland back for his kind fixtures. And if you've already got him in your team, you're a move ahead of, could be the vast majority of the field in game week 30. You can react to the FA Cup results. You can react to any newly announced doubles, like for Newcastle and Brighton, for instance, in game week 31, or maybe even game week 30, and bring in players from those 2 teams, instead of getting Erling Haaland back, where others will have to take hits or use free transfers to do that. So it's playing the long game. If you hold on to Haaland, it's more transfer efficient. It's a player you definitely want back, possibly want back next week, as early as next week. And so it's perfectly all right not to sell him. I'm not saying I'm doing that, but I say it's perfectly all right not to sell him. So the other thing is, just to play devil's advocate, Watkins' double isn't that great in 29. Who are the two teams they're playing? They're both away games, aren't they?
Leicester and Chelsea.
Leicester and Chelsea away, yeah. So I suppose if you're a defender, it's not as great a game week, but they are decent away, and so, but they are 2 away games rather than two home games. So
I think Watkins. I've got to check this, but I think he's returned in every away game he's played under Emery. I think he's got a goal or assist. He's pretty. His stats are actually better away, so that doesn't.
Yeah.
In a way, that doesn't put me off Watkins. The defense maybe, but
there's another alternative to Watkins as a striker that again has got a lot of airtime this week, who has 2 home games in game week 29 that is a similar price. So there are other options to Watkins, but again, that still involves selling Haaland for him. So I just think you've got to. This is where the theme of today's section is really to go your own way on this. There isn't just one solution, and any content creator out there tells you it's got to be this route is giving you false advice. There really are other options, and you've just got to make your choice on the player you fancy. I think.
Good stuff.
I agree.
I think
what do you think about it all?
I think by listening to both your arguments, you've probably solidified what I'm going to do. Just a couple of additional points. Obviously, if we sell Haaland and buy him back, you will lose a bit of team value, but that's just not going to matter this year. I think Brighton in particular, because we're going to be stacked with Brighton players the rest of the season. They've and other teams as well, but they've just made team value a bit of a nonsense, really. That the fact that premium defenders aren't performing. I know Liverpool's fixtures improve, but I still can't see us wanting both Trent, and Robertson, for example, and all this stuff either. And even the Chelsea defenders are not even that expensive anymore, or expensive they have been previously and things. So, Man City defenders, we haven't got the Cancelo at 7 million to worry about anymore. So I just don't think, and the keepers actually, the best keepers in the game. I mean, if Steele keeps his place, 3.9 million at the moment, okay, he'll probably rise, but that's not even something we have to think about anymore, which I think is really important, because if we were talking about a 0.3 or 0.4 swing, for example, that's something to think about. I think the international break is quite important as well, because I do think we should look to probably take the points in front of us, because it's all very well holding on to Haaland over the break, maybe, and not going for Watkins or not going for Havertz or not going for someone else. But if those players score 1 goal in that time and you're a player short, so you've got a player you don't really want, you're already kind of 9 or 10 points behind the curve there. After that break, we will probably know if Haaland is going to be fit or not. Or, he very likely is. But if he isn't going to be fit, not only have you missed out on the points that's already gone, other people are actually ahead of you then as well. So, and also, I think when you go into 29, it looks like Tony's going away with England. Watkins isn't, and Kane will be going away as well. So they'll be seeing Kane and Tony, especially Kane, will see a lot of action. You could swap for any of those 3 back as well. So if something happens with Tony, with any of this betting scandal, which is unlikely, again, but you never know, Watkins gets some kind of injury, Kane gets some kind of injury scare, you can swap back to any of them. I think that the people are maybe a bit scared of going back because they don't know who they're going to go back for. But that's a luxury problem. That, to me, is not a problem. That's just a luxury. And I do agree with you, Adam, on the fact that we're not going to captain Haaland in 29 because, probably 11 or 12 of our things will. So even if he does score a brace, 13 points, it's not as scary as not captaining him normally, because, as you say, it only takes one of these other players, Kane, Tony, Watkins, Havertz, to score a goal, and they're only 3 or 4 points off him anyway. So I suppose, with all that in mind, it was fairly obvious where I'm going. But also, I'll only have 10 without doing that sale as well. So for me, it fits in perfectly. You are right, that was team dependent, because if you've got 11 or 12 going out anyway without having to sell Haaland, you may think, do you know what, I'm fine, I'll leave him. But for me, I've got 9 players currently playing, 2 free transfers, and with all that I've just said, I think it's fairly easy for me to make that move. So and then you've got options.
Are you going to buy back? Are you thinking about buying back straight away, or will you wait till 30?
I'm very much a waiter. No, I'm very much a waiter ahead of look at 29 first, because things happen. Like things at this, we're still over a fortnight away from that time. Anything can happen in that period, and So, I can just, happy to wait, make a decision on the Saturday morning. We may even get early team news, if Haaland has had a slight knock or something, or wherever else, we may even get news that he's not playing. We'll all be on there. What is it? Ticks and Talks, or whatever that account.
Team News
and Ticks. That would make things easier. So
Ticks and Talks.
Ticks and Talks. But yeah, anyway, that's my argument. I do think there's a lot of upside to selling, and then you can basically choose when you get him back, because he's not a captaincy option in 29.
So what you're saying is Watkins is better than Haaland.
Sell. I'm saying he's very likely to outscore him combined in game week 28 and 29, I think. So
I think odds, probability wise, yeah. But I think Rich does make some good points.
Yeah, I agree. And, and like I say, if you can get 11 out in 28 without doing it, or you're free hitting in 20, for example, there's no harm in keeping him at all. I'm playing him in 29 because he'll be my captain in Sky, for example, in other formats, because I do think he will do damage against Liverpool. It's whether he'll do enough damage to warrant taking out a double game weeker in FPL, which I'm not sure he will. So there are some other players. We touched earlier on Ollie Watkins, but there are some Leicester and Chelsea players as well. Rich, do you want to touch on a couple of these?
Yeah, sure. So, I think the rival to the third forward berth is really Kai Havertz. That's a lot of people have been discussing this week. Havertz has got 3 home games in a row. I think they play Everton this week. They definitely play Liverpool in one of the games. I think it's Villa, is it, in the other game?
They play Villa.
The third game. So all those games are at home for Chelsea. They are improving. Obviously, great win in the Champions League last week. Slight downsides. They have made the Champions League quarterfinals. So the draw for that is tomorrow, and then clearly the fixture congestion may start to impact on the expected minutes of some, because they've got such a huge squad that rotation is always more likely with them, especially if they're preparing for a big Champions League game. But Havertz is definitely up there. He is the designated penalty taker, despite being fairly fortunate and missing a penalty that was then ordered to be retaken, which he then subsequently scored from. So I think he's a bit of a suspect penalty taker. And I was actually, as a fan, I was kind of laughing at him a bit when I was watching Chelsea last week because of his performance, the amount of chances he was missing. So of the two, I personally favour Watkins just because of the form and the consistency of returns that he's getting over Havertz. Although Chelsea don't really have much of an alternative to play up front, they're not going to start playing Aubameyang every week, and Sterling seems to be a bit out of the picture as well. So I think Havertz is a good pick if you fancy Chelsea purely for the fixtures, and probably on the fixtures over the next 3 they get the nod. So there's Havertz there. I think moving on, the other really popular pick from Chelsea is Ben Chilwell. He's been brought in by a lot of people already on wild card in game week 27. Scored an absolute cracking goal on the volley last week. And his attacking stats are right up there. He seems to be fit. I'm a little bit worried he's got the England call up because he is fairly suspect injury-wise. So I actually think he might be a better buy in game week 29 than 28, mainly because I'd like to take a Brentford defender out for him rather than lose, say, a Brighton defender who I want to keep. So it's really about trying to, which blanker can you lose this week for him to bring him in for this week. You risk the injuries, etc., etc. So I think Chilwell's a great buy, and nothing wrong with bringing him in this week. And then if you don't want to sell Haaland, Ben Chilwell is a perfectly viable transfer. And the other of the 3 most popular is James Maddison. So you see him in the forefront of our picture there. Maddison has a great double game week in game week 29 too. Could you remind me what the fixtures are there, Fergie, for Maddison in 29?
Chelsea and Villa?
No, Crystal Palace. So Crystal Palace away, Villa at home.
Palace and Villa, yeah.
There we are. Palace and Villa, yeah. Really
good.
nice fixtures. He's got a scoreable fixture against Brentford, I think, this weekend as well. So really unlucky not to haul in the last 2 weeks as well. So I'm not surprised he's been called back up to the England team and may see some action there in the international. So yeah, really like the Maddison pick. But again, the challenge is really who to lose for Maddison. You know, if you were to go back to one of the template teams of any of our teams that we had up at the beginning, you could look across it and say, well, I need all the players that have a fixture this week to get through the week. And then looking at my bench, do I want to lose Mitoma? Do I want to lose March? Do I want to lose Saka? Do I want to lose Marcus Rashford? You know, where does he come in? That's the problem with bringing him in this week. You've got to let someone go who you don't really want to. He's possibly a choice in game week 29 between him and Bruno Fernandes. You know, he was really popular a couple of weeks ago in terms of people's thinking, but now Casemiro has been sent off and is suspended for 4 matches, I think. Everyone's wondering whether Bruno's going to play a deeper role. I know we're getting very technical here, but you know, he's just gone off the boil a little bit in terms of people fancying him. So Maddison is a very viable, again, in game week 29 as that sort of, you know, high upside midfielder that you can bring in again. And if you've got a slot, if you've got someone in your team that you can lose this week, maybe who does have a blank fixture, maybe someone like Zaha or James Ward-Prowse or someone like that who's expendable, then Maddison makes a great choice to bring in.
The other person on the graphic is Iheanacho for Leicester, he's roughly averaging about 74 to 75 minutes, but his XG and XA during that time are pretty good, you know, and obviously at the moment he can't finish off Maddison's chances, but if Maddison is likely to return, Iheanacho is probably as likely in terms of he'll be finishing the chances off. So I do think he's another option alongside Havertz and Watkins. Definitely, yeah. Just looking at our predicted points, I'll come to you now, Adam. For the next 2 game weeks, Harry Kane is top 15.8. Tony is second for 15.4. Iheanacho is third with 15. João Felix is just above Havertz, only by 0.3 of a point, but the algorithm still likes Felix. He's still getting the chances, although I would say from the eye test, in the last 2 games especially, Havertz for me would probably be my pick, but Felix still is there. Maddison, 14.5. Trippier, who's obviously back to being really popular, 14.5. Watkins, 14. Reece James is slightly above Chilwell, only by a point or so. I expect that's down to historic, XG and XA and stuff. But Adam, what's your thinking? You know, on the primary targets of the next week or two. Do any of them tickle your fancy apart from the ones you talked about, or is there anyone else maybe on your radar?
My watch list is actually very, very short at the moment, so I'm considering Luke Shaw next week.
Okay.
Game week 29. So I think defenders I'm looking at are Chilwell and Shaw. Midfielders Bruno and Maddison. I think Ben Rama possibly next week, but I think I probably prefer Brighton in more longer term potential. And forwards, I've got Havertz on there, but I'm not going to go against Watkins. So I think if you want to think outside the box, I think Bournemouth could do okay the next 3 or 4. I thought they were very good against Liverpool. They played Villa the weekend. I think Bournemouth will score. What's his? Is it Ouattara? Ouattara? I'm terrible with pronouncing.
He's on the list as well, actually.
He is, lightning quick. I mean, the way he sort of stood. But Van Dijk, it was pretty impressive. He's like turn of pace. But he looks really good. I think Philip Billing is making some good runs into the box. So I think there's some options there if you want to go a little bit different this week, because I think they'll score at Villa, and then they've got Fulham and Brighton and Leicester. So fixtures aren't terrible there. But yeah, I think at the moment our watch list is fairly short.
Yeah, I think we'll be looking for looking's sake. Forest have got good fixtures as well. Johnson would probably be on here, but he is flagged at the moment. Morgan Gibbs-White is on this list, 13.4. There's a couple of Leeds players, Bamford as well, Harrison, Somerville. Rodrigo isn't on here because he's still flagged. A couple of Newcastle mids, but the thing is, the game is so template at the moment, and it is, and with good reason, right? You know, I saw there's some people moaning about the template, but if you've gone with a template this week, you've smashed it,
yeah.
and that's and that's why the template is so strong, is because everything is so obvious. So you know, I wouldn't just think, oh, I've only scored 105 points. You know, that's boring. I mean, scoring this is the first 100 points I think I've scored in 2 seasons. You know, and I'm still like, you know, I had a massive green arrow. So even though I scored less than that 105, I still went up from 230k to 154. So keep doing this in 28, keep doing it in 29. By the time we come out of it the other end in 30, this little period between 26 and 29, the engaged managers who've planned ahead, thought ahead, who've navigated their way through 28, smashing the doubles, bench boosting, all this jazz, will come out on top. I can't see how we can't come out on top in 28. We'll only be losing out to free hitters, and in 29, you know, we'll all very likely have 11 doublers, and you know, 11 or 12 doublers, and Kane, Saka, and Haaland on the bench. So it's pretty good. So but yeah, Watara, someone in the chat, sorry, FPL Big Head says Watara. Nick Moore says, little surprised to see Kane top considering no double in 29. Yeah, it's probably the quality of the fixtures. They've got Everton, Southampton.
Over 9 points this weekend or something.
He is, yeah.
9 points something.
Yeah, away to Southampton this weekend. And I think they've got Everton, haven't they, in 29 and stuff. So yeah, that's the reason why. Anyone else, Rich? Do you want to touch on it at all, or are we good to move on?
No, I agree with Adam. I think it does feel a bit restrictive. I knew it would feel like this when we plugged that wild card in 26. It was all going to be a bit of a procession, a bit of a trudge in terms of like save in 27, make this transfer in 28, then you keep the money back for the Haaland didgeridoo or whatever, and just sort of you know, it does feel a little bit prescriptive and dull, you know, going through this process. But if you're going through the process and you're getting green arrows, then it's working, right? And so
that's the game, right?
Exactly. So the people will diversify this week. They will start to go in different directions.
Yeah.
So they'll make a choice between Watkins and Havertz. They'll make a choice between keeping Haaland and selling him.
Yeah.
They possibly will take a hit and get all 3 of those most wanted players, Chilwell, Maddison, and Watkins, in one go. You know, where other people will save their transfers to, you know, put out fires in 29. So people's teams will start to naturally go in different directions. And I think by game week 30, 31, we'll all have 3 or 4 players different, which is good. This is what you want. And then you'll have people that have held back their chips. Will be their turn to play their chips. So it's a little bit, you know, samey at the moment. I do think so, and therefore the number of player targets that are ideal is smaller.
It's just the obvious play. This is the thing, is it? If you purposely go away from the obvious play, that's everyone's individual decision. There is high upside potential there, but there is high downside. Whereas you go this way, you probably know there's a very reasonable upside, almost guaranteed, just down to the volume of players you've got playing. Because in 28 and 29 now, we will have 26 players, including 11 doublers, whereas a casual manager won't have anywhere near that. So it's just the obvious play, and the right way to play FPL at the moment. We've just knocked up a Fantasy Football Hub Artificial Intelligence free hit team. So this is the team that our algorithm says would be the best free hit team for this week only. It has Ramsdale in goal, Kepa on the bench, Trippier. It does a double up on Reece James and Chilwell. It really, really likes the chances of Chelsea clean sheet against Everton. Odegaard, Saka, Maddison we've been talking about. Almiron away to Forest. We haven't seen that name for a little while, but it fancies it away to Forest. And no surprises up front. Kane, Tony, and the algorithm picks Watkins out slightly ahead of Havertz, I think. But and then Konza, St. Maximum, and Mings on the bench. So that is what the algorithm picks out as a free hit team. And I've got to be honest, obviously I would prefer a double F of James and Chilwell rather than a Brentford defender and Chilwell, just as an example. If we could have Maddison instead of someone, but don't think our teams are too far away from that, right? And this is the kind of ideal team.
Well, I haven't looked at this before the show, and my initial reaction to that is it's not that different to what you can transfer to. If you've got Maddison and Watkins in with 2 free transfers, you're practically there, aren't you? I mean, the Chelsea double up in defence is nice for a week. I like that on a free hit because it doesn't commit to those 2 players for anything longer than a week. So if they're liable to play, that's good. I'd probably think Son was affordable as an option for 1 week, no one else owning him, so he might be a nice punt for a free hit. So I don't know why the algorithm hasn't suggested him, but probably because he's been so out of form, that it hasn't factored that in. But interesting. It's just quite close to the template, isn't it?
It's not far at all off our teams, which is good. Which means that the wild card in 26 has been successful, I think, because it's successfully navigated us through 27, set us up perfectly for 28, or as perfectly as you can be potentially, and for 29. Captain for this week is an interesting one. It's probably a bit closer than we've had most weeks in terms of predicted points for this week. fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. Go there for all your for all your points predictions. Harry Kane is top, 7.6 points. Tony and Watkins both on 6.1, Felix 5.5, Trippier 5.5, Havertz 5.4, Odegaard 5.3, Saka 5.2, Iheanacho 5, James and Chilwell both on 4.8, Maddison 4.7, and then we go down. And in terms of the poll on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, Kane 63% of the vote. Looks like Kane will probably be the most popular captain this week by the sound of it. Saka with 14.5% of the vote, Watkins with 6%, Tony with 5%. Adam, come to you first. Have you got any thoughts on captaincy this week, or is it easy for you?
I wouldn't say it's easy, but my gut feel is I'm having a few beers with my mate on Saturday, going to the football, going to watch Villa play. So I don't know if I can captain Watkins because it could be make or break. But I think for me, I'm on Kane at the moment. Reason being, he's been involved in 60% of Spurs goals away from home. Only Tony's got a better goal involvement percentage. So Kane's 53%, Tony's 54% of all goals scored. So I think if Spurs score 2 or 3, Kane's could be good for a goal or assist there. So I think I trust Kane. He's equally as good away as he is at home. I mean, I think he's got the record amount of away goals in the Premier League, hasn't he? I think so. I think from that perspective, and how poor Southampton defend set pieces. So I said last week about the amount of chances they give up, and that's why I went with Tony captain. If you look at recent times, Watkins did fairly well there. Iheanacho did fairly well there, although missed every chance. Yeah. Tony's done all right there last night. So, and particularly on set pieces, and Spurs, and Kane's actually got quite a few goals off corners and set pieces this season. So, and Spurs haven't been all there, but I think they're capable of, when you write off Spurs, do you know when you think, they're rubbish, and then they came back and had that 4-0
4-0 at Palace. Exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. They've got that in there, and Southampton, I think, are going to be pretty gutted from the result last night, and they didn't take advantage against Man United. So I don't know. I think that's where I'm at. The problem with Arsenal, I do like Arsenal, and obviously potentially they could have Palace could have Guaita out and be playing the same guys last night in goal, but they've been quite good defensively, Palace, and they tend to make it difficult for opposition. And plus, you've got the spread of goals with Arsenal. You haven't got that with Spurs. Kane's as talismanic as you're going to get. So, and he's equal. He's got just as good a chance of assisting. So, I think I'm happy captaining Kane. I think that's where I'm at the moment. There are other good options. I mean, which I'm sure you'll mention a few in a minute, but I think the likes of Tony, Chilwell, Maddison, if you want a risk, Arsenal guys. I think there are loads of really good options this week, but I just trust. I trust Harry Kane. I think his EO will be over 100% or close to. So that's where I'm going.
Yeah, really good explanation there, Adam. Rich, what's you thinking?
Similar. I think I got a bit closer to considering Saka in the last day. And there's a game tonight. I'm not sure if it's on like right now or whether it's at about 8 o'clock. But depending on how many minutes Saka gets for Arsenal this evening, I think their game's quite tight, isn't it? 1-1 or something. So I think they're going to play a strong side. Yeah. If Saka gets 90 minutes and gets kicked about a bit, then I think that strengthens the case for Kane. But also, just in terms of just putting an alternate point about Arsenal, if you saw how well they played against Fulham, Crystal Palace are not in the same league as Arsenal. I mean, if you're looking for a match, I think where there could be a sizable defeat. Arsenal are at home, could be a 4 or 5-0 to Arsenal. But to Adam's point, they do spray the goals around across the whole team. I think Trossard's playing very well. Totally deserves his place at the moment. Martinelli seems to be on fire. So any of those guys, you
just don't know who's going to score, do you?
Don't know who's going to score.
You could name any of those front four players and you wouldn't be surprised for any of them.
It's completely the opposite situation at Tottenham.
Exactly.
Kane is involved in almost all the goals. And also, we haven't mentioned Richarlison. If Richarlison gets a run in the team, they look like they've got more energy. They look like they play faster football with Richarlison in the team. He's pissed off that he hasn't been in the team, and to say the least, and he wants to stay in it. So he'll help them start games better. And I just think that if he starts against Southampton, they could have a good day. So Kane at the moment, unless something strange happens, but Saka's a perfectly good choice.
I do think this is a week where you can challenge Kane personally. All season, basically since game week 2, it's been Haaland, right? And I think and last season it was Salah. So for 2 seasons, almost, barring the odd game week, I think that we've almost had the captaincy as not even being a factor in our thinking every week. I mean, we do this section of the show every week, and it's always Haaland, right? But I do think this week, I do agree that Kane, is the best option, and is likely at this point to do well or do better than most. But I don't think there's any harm in going against him. I think Tony at home to Leicester, for example. Apparently, historically, I think that's quite a high-scoring game. Brentford at home were superb in their last game. Leicester defensively aren't the best. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Tony get a couple of returns there, just as an example. You mentioned Watkins. I think Chelsea at home to Everton as well, both at the back and going forward. I'm not saying I'll probably go Kane because I do think that Kane is the best option, but normally we've been going Haaland because, he is the best option, but also because we're scared of him, right? But I do think this week there is the opportunity, if you've really got a feeling for someone else, to just go for it personally. That's the only thing I would add.
So I think if Haaland does exist, but if he didn't exist, Kane would look so much better this season.
Yeah, he would.
And he would, because he's got 20 goals and I think 6 assists. He's been pretty impressive.
It's a return of game, isn't it?
He's been a return of game under Conte and pretty much. But for context, Kane, who's very talismanic, who's been one of the best FPL players over the last, I don't know how long we want to go, but 5 years. It was incredible last season. He's been great this season. He was great the season before. He's playing bottom of the league, who've kept 1 clean sheet at home all season. And let's face it, that clean sheet they kept, Iheanacho did his best. Wow, I think he pretty much should have had the clean sheet points because he was responsible for the Leicester not scoring. I think it's hard not to go. I think Kane could come away with a big score. I think there's some good fixtures this week, but I think I'm gonna stick there.
No, it's fine. And I haven't really got any argument. I just think that it is a chance to go somewhere else without potentially not destroying your rank, which is the case this week. Fergie's a punt for Game Week 28. I'm a bit disappointed now with my punt because we have talked about him a little bit. He's only He's not very owned. He's not very highly owned, but there has been a couple of shouts in the chat actually, which are much better than mine. I'll go through my one first. So I have gone for Havertz, and he's only, I think he's 4.6% owned. So those who are chasing a bit, and you are on the fence between Havertz and Watkins, I do expect Watkins's ownership to skyrocket this week. Whereas I think Havertz will, it will increase, but I still don't see it being kind of over 10 personally, maybe scraping 10, but I do think Havertz is a good option if you're chasing this week. However, a couple of real punts. These are lovely punts in the chat. Matt Henley says Son against that Southampton defence, the Haaland. We scored 4 against them last season or the season before. And Chef AB has gone one further and said Richarlison, who obviously got the couple of assists last game week. So I think they are proper punts. Well done, chaps. You've completely outdone me. I'm a bit ashamed of myself just going for Havertz. I got to be honest though, I hadn't realised Havertz had been the talk of the town really, but clearly he had. But yeah, Richarlison and Son this week could be. If I was free hitting, I'd definitely have Kane and Son, for example, or
extra
someone like
Spurs
that.
player. Yeah.
Yep. Just for balance, Alex has said Tottenham's last 3 away games have been Wolves, Leicester, and Fulham. They have lost all of them and only scored 1 across the 3. So that's just for balance. Very, very nice, Alex. Thank you.
I mean, they haven't been great watches, have they, either? Because a lot of them have been on TV, and you sort of wanted to switch over and do something else, haven't you? Really.
But Southampton are pretty dumb.
And I think Spurs have got the habit of doing that. And just when you, I don't know, I think they'll win comfortably the weekend. So, but it's a good counter argument because they were pretty poor in those matches.
Is it on TV, that one? Because I always like to capture the player that is on TV.
There's very few matches are on TV this weekend because of the FA Cup. So I don't even think the Arsenal game's on TV. I saw a post, somebody saying that hardly any Arsenal games are on TV this month, and I think they put Crystal Palace wasn't. So I think it's because of the FA Cup. They've prioritised that. And there's a lot of 3 o'clock kickoffs this weekend. So I think Villa kick off at 3, Spurs kick off at 3, Brentford, Leicester's 3 o'clock. And I think there's another one. There might be another one as well. Leeds, Wolves, that's it. So yeah. And then I think the Chelsea one's the later fixture.
Chef AB clearly thinks a lot of me. He said he thought my punt would be Lavia. Flipping heck, I don't know where he's pulled that one from. Just before we look at our teams, we're going to look at our teams next and go through our plans for the game week. But firstly, Sorare, the revolutionary new fantasy football game where you can win tickets to a Premier League match by entering and winning our Sorare Premier League mini league, is in the Premier League. If you enter for free via our exclusive link in the description below, in addition to your standard free cards, you'll get a free limited card to enter in your team, but only if you go through our exclusive link below in the description. The mini league pin is also in the description below. The very best of luck, and don't forget, the winner gets a pair of Premier League tickets. Go ahead and join in the fun for absolutely free. Our very own Holly Shand cashed quite considerably last week, I think. So yeah, get your team in, pick your team. It's all free. Enter our free mini league. See what Sorare is all about. It's really good fun. Adam, we've got your team up first. Do you want to run through it and talk us through your plans for the game week?
Yeah, not 100% confirmed, but let's go through it. So I have a choice of goalkeepers. So unfortunately, I can't play them both. That would be nice, wouldn't it? And that's might be a bit of a waste of a bench boost. So I've got we're spaffing chips left, right, and centre. So why not? It's got Kepa in goal. So I think I probably prefer that to Raya this week. I then got Zinchenko, Trippier. At the moment, I've got Rico Henry and Botman. And then in midfield, I've got Saka, Martinelli, and then up front, Tony, Kane, and Kane captain. So my transfer plans for the week are Ollie Watkins will be coming in for Haaland. So that's transfer 1. I'm debating whether to lose Henry or Estupiñán, but I think I don't really want Rico Henry. And if I was free hitting, I wouldn't have him this week. So, and I think Leicester attack-wise have been okay. It's just defensively, they've not been great. So I think I'm going to do Henry to Chilwell. I love the upside of Chilwell. I think he's a fun pick. He's on, he's taking some corners. He's getting in the box loads. He's very, very attack minded. So I've got no problem in any other game week. I would happily make that transfer. The only question I've got is, do I take a -4 for doing either Matoma or March? Probably March because I've got value in Matoma to Maddison. If I do that, I've pretty much got as good as a free hit team. And it's so the pros for doing it is I think Maddison's due a haul. I mean, he's been so unlucky the last few weeks. I think he's quality when he plays for Leicester. He just looks brilliant. He's on it all the time. So the downside to doing it is he's obviously been called up for England, and he's carrying this. He seems to be plagued by niggling injuries. So there is a risk to it. And then if he does get injured, etc., or even if he doesn't get injured, it probably rules me out of Bruno further down the line. I think I prefer Maddison to Bruno, but I just don't like all these injuries. So yeah, I've got to decide on that -4. I think it's quite a close one, to be honest. I don't think it's as simple as saying it's only a -2 because I'm taking out because really it might end up meaning an extra transfer the following week, and he's actually got to get 4 points otherwise, which isn't he hasn't got 4 points in the last 2 matches, has he? So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. What do you think? Would you do the -4?
You've made a luxury move by getting rid of a player who has a fixture this week for Chilwell. That's why you've had to -4. So most people are just thinking, shall I bother getting 11 out, or shall I stick with 10? You've gone a step further and said, I'm taking out a player who has a home fixture to get Chilwell in, because I want to hang on to a Stupin, and I totally get that because I want to hang on to him as well. And you brought in Maddison, who's another sort of prime pick, and you got him this week rather than next. So you're sort of you're definitely optimizing your team, but you're taking a hit when a lot of people won't. So if one or two things go wrong, you might struggle to get a green arrow, but you're certainly stronger than most teams by doing that. And as long as you are happy maybe not to chase Man United assets as much in Gameweek 29, then there's nothing wrong with it.
I think.
Oh, sorry, you go, Adam.
Fergie. No. I'm interested in your view as well.
I just don't see the rush to get Maddison in this week when you can just get him next week. I suppose is my point. He's away to Brentford. Brentford's reasonably solid at home, especially. I just don't see the rush. I think you can get 11 out without a hit, and then just even if you want to take a hit in 29, at least you've got the information, haven't you? Because Maddison is injury prone as well. He could get injured over the break, and then all of a sudden you're having to take another hit to get your bench boost back and stuff. And I think it's a bit of a luxury move.
Yeah, I think I may just go with 10. I'm all right with that because I really like the upside of Chilwell.
I agree with that.
I think so. This is so I think I'm more for Chilwell than I am for Maddison at the moment. Rich, that's probably the thing. Okay. So I've been so impressed with him since he's come into the team, and I think he's such a key way to how Potter's playing. So I could see a 10-pointer or 10+ points from him. Maddison, I've got doubts about, so I think it would be for a hit, and because also I want to bring a Brighton one back, so I've already booking in a transfer, aren't I? So it's just whether I do Henry or Estupiñán. Now, Estupiñán's going to Australia. There is that factor, but I just think the longer term, I don't really want to lose him. I quite like him as a player.
Yeah, and you don't really want 3, even though people were going with three Brighton mids because they're all good. It's overkill on the midfield. It cramps the midfield to any other options, doesn't it? So having a Brighton defender is better balance.
Yeah, and so I'm really effectively I'm gambling on Chilwell outscoring Henry, and then Estupiñán being able to make up in the double game week over Henry. And I think that's fine. I mean, I wouldn't I think this is we're talking about quality players. This is probably the key thing. And nothing against Rico Henry, he's done fairly well for me, but I think that's why I'm prioritising Chilwell, because I think I want him for the double. I think he could return quite well over the next 3 or 4 game weeks. So yeah, I think I'll probably just go with 10, and I don't think it's and actually by not taking a hit, it's equivalent to saying Maddison got me 4 points. That's how I'll psychologically see it.
An assist and a booking, you take that, wouldn't you?
Assist and a booking, yeah. That's what I'll. Yeah.
Rich, we've now got your team on screen. Do you want to run us through your thoughts?
Okay, well, it's pretty similar to a lot of teams out there. Let's call it template 105. It's very familiar to possibly your team if you're watching. This week, this is pre-transfers. I still haven't decided about Haaland, but I think one thing happened last night that's made me more likely to move Haaland out for Watkins, and that's Ivan Toney getting a booking. Yeah. I think it's fine if he gets another booking at the weekend for me, because it'll just make him an automatic sell for 29 because he'll be banned, and therefore you bring the Haaland move forward in game week 29. Perfect. And just get him back for the Liverpool fixture, and then you've got Watkins, Kane and Haaland for the next 5-6 weeks, and that's fine given Villa's fixtures. So that's done. But the only downside of that obviously is it uses 2 transfers. It gives me I'm very likely to bench boost in game week 29. I'd like to spend those 2 transfers on optimizing the team for the bench boost. In all likelihood, I'm going to be putting out fires for the bench boost after the international break on flag players that we don't know about yet. So I do think it's important to take 2 transfers into game week 29 if you are bench boosting. That's quite cautious, but I just think it's a safe thing because I'm going to want to have as good a bench boost as possible given the time lag. And if I have to take 1 hit, that's fine, but that gives me 3 transfers. I don't really want to spend both those transfers this week on Maddison and Chilwell, good options though they are, and just put myself down to 1 free. So I'm likely to just do Haaland to Watkins and go with 10.
Well,
that would be what I'm like to
that
do.
guarantees the Chilwell blank mind, Adam. You know that, because when Rich doesn't make the move, it normally pays off for him. So that guarantees the Chilwell blank there.
Cheers, Rich. Bring Chilwell in. Just curse Chilwell.
Yeah, I mean, if Chilwell, if I did Chilwell, it wouldn't be for Henry. It would be because Henry would he can just get me 2 points, or he can just chance of a clean sheet. I would sell a Stupin for him, and then I would buy back at a later date. I think the one point I made of it, I think with Brighton, is obviously when Brighton have a double with just Brentford to consider, it's very important to have 3 of their assets. In game week 29, virtually everybody doubles. So you don't have to have 3 Brighton in game week 29. You just have to have 3 Brighton for their next double, which could be in game week 31, but it might not be until game week 34. So you've got ages to get another Brighton player in. So I'm not that afraid to sell a Stupidin for Chilwell as the second move, and it still gives me 11. So I'll probably sit there wondering on Friday night whether or not I want to get a full side out, because I'm letting a fixture go, aren't I? So if you go with 10, you're sort of burning a fixture, whereas it's not for a hit, it's for a free transfer. So I haven't written it off. But
would you keep Rico Henry then in
for this week? Yeah.
No, in game. Sorry, game week. No, sorry, get that. In game week 29, do you think?
I might just put him on my bench boost. Yeah, just put him on my bench. He's got 2 games. He got a clean sheet away from home last night, didn't he? So, yeah, I just wouldn't worry about it. I'd probably have to keep him because there'll be other
fires.
Trophies I'd want to go after, right? So,
and it's funny as well because even though we try and optimize every game week, there's always certain players that score points who are good plays when they sometimes you don't expect them to as well. And Henry could fall into that. He could just get a clean sheet out with the blue, and you don't expect it. But it does happen all the time.
15 fantastic high ceiling players is virtually impossible
Yeah.
to get on a bench boost, isn't it? It's mainly about, can I keep, to your point, Fergie, with the one flag on Odegaard put you off bench boosting, right? That's one yellow flag. If we go into game week 29 with one yellow flag across 15 players, we've done really well. I think we'll have 3 or 4 flagged players, and you'll be thinking, I've only got one free transfer. How the hell am I going to bench boost? You know, so it's certainly a sensible play to carry.
I'll definitely be bench boosted in 29. I can't think of anything worse than trying to navigate through just FPL game weeks as well as trying to bloody Go on, Adam. Sorry.
No, sorry. Carry on.
As well as trying to set up another bench boost like later on. I'll just be taking hits. I don't even mind if I take a -8 to get a bench boost out, just to get out of the way and then concentrate on the rest of the season regardless, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd be up for taking up to a -12 if I had to get.
I think so.
Because it's such the thing it's such a big opportunity because I know you're more against taking hits, Rich, but I think in game weeks like game week 29, there is such huge upside. So getting the right players for a -4 is huge. So let's say you go for, I don't know, it might even be you go from one of the Arsenal ones who you think could be rotated to Bruno for a -4. There could be Bruno could get 20 points versus his one.
Absolutely.
So I actually, and we've seen loads of examples. I think the lesson I took coming into the season is double game weeks. Do not worry about hits. The other game weeks, and I think you sort of what you've seen. I suppose it's a blank game weeks, maybe again slightly different, but I think you, in general, particularly unless it's a captain, I'm more against it now.
I love how the conversation has swayed from saving a transfer to a -12. That is
-12.
absolutely brilliant. And people say people say there's a template and we're boring. We're all doing different things this week.
No, but I would it wouldn't bother me if I felt I had the wrong players or there were enough injuries out. I'd happily take the hits to optimize and gamble on getting the 200 points rather than. Because I think it'll be a big game week 29, I think. So it's worth the
biggest one of the season. It's the biggest one of the season, and our bench players are currently Kane, Haaland, and Saka, who have all got amazing games.
But it's not worth taking them out for doublers. I mean,
I agree with that.
Ben got 134 points, and he had 6 or 7 single game week.
I can envisage you rolling a transfer in double game week 29.
He's going to roll a transfer in game week 38.
Burn a transfer.
No. Rich is going to roll in game week 38 just because that's how he rolls. Just a quick look at my team. Very similar as we know, so I won't go into all the nuts and bolts. But I think my plan, I was thinking this anyway, but I think I've confirmed it now after speaking through it. I'm going to do Haaland to. I do fancy Watkins. He's looking very sharp, and I do think he could be really good for these forthcoming weeks. He's also home to Nottingham Forest in game week 30. So as we come out of these doubles, he walks straight into a real plum fixture. So I'm definitely doing that move. And my second move, and just talking through it then with you has helped me clear it in my own mind. I'm getting rid of Estupinian or Estupinan because Henry, will score points in 28. Even if it's only 2, but there is the outside of 6. There is the outside chance of even more. You just never know in a one-off game like that. So I don't really agree with you there, Adam, on that. Additionally, getting rid of Estupinian, he does have his country are playing away in Australia, and I think they have a fixture 3 days before the deadline for game week 29 as well. Now, I'm not saying that he definitely won't play, but there is a chance that he might not, which does kind of leave me a bit. Do you really want to bench boost? And then the first game he doesn't play, you'd be a bit sick there. And additionally to that as well, to your point, Rich, then that does enable the potential for going for a third Brighton mid, which I know it is. You're absolutely right. It would seem overcrowded, but at the moment, are there many better options than the Brighton mids, than McAllister, March and Matoma? Are there any better options in the game? I'm not sure there are.
I think you're being harsh on Stupinan because this is his scores since game week 20: 6, 9, 6, 7, 8, 6, 1, 8.
Good, isn't it?
You look at Rico Henry; it's nowhere near.
No.
It's pretty consistent.
Yeah, but he's going to score none in 28, whereas
and
Henry might.
and he should have had a goal as well against Crystal Palace, which VAR admitted the mistake for, where they drew the lines.
No, I think he's a fantastic option, which is why he's in my team. But the fact he blanks, I just think you are taking out Henry, who is playing and could get a clean sheet. And then you're going to play with 10. I don't really get that. So I'm going to take a Stupinian out for Chilwell, and then in 29, I like to say, if it was the following game, if it's the following week, I may think a bit more week to week. But we've got this international break, and who knows what you're going to want in 2 or 3 weeks' time. It does open up that third mid spot, and don't get me wrong, Estupinian is a fabulous option. If he plays both games in 29, I'm sure he'll do really, really well. But what it does for 29, it leaves me flexible, because you're talking about -4s, -8s. Adam, you mentioned -12s. I mean, you know, you mean to minus like 16. You may as well. But if you are doing these -4s, -8s, you may want to juggle your team around a little bit with the formation, with the midfielders for Brighton. You know, you want different options there as well. If Estupinian doesn't come back until the Thursday or Friday, I do find it highly unlikely that he flies back from Australia and plays the following day.
But Casido's in the same position, so it's gonna then if they'll treat him the same, so that could end up pushing McAllister.
Thomas in Japan as well.
Yeah, Thomas in Japan, and apparently McAllister's in Argentina. There are all these things. They are not as far as Australia, I would say, but I take the point. I think my overarching point is, I want to optimize 28 and leave myself flexible for 29 with Haaland, with I may even get Estupinian back. You know, if he's back and fit, you know, I could bring him back. You know, there's a reason. It's only a -4, but I just think playing with 10 when Rico Henry has a reasonable chance of a clean sheet. I'm happy then to take a -4 anyway. I haven't lost anything. That's.
Can I just say something about Ben Chilwell? Over the last couple of seasons, I've owned him about 4 times, right?
Yeah.
And I think 2 of those times I never got a single minute out of him because he got injured. And I think the other 2 times I got 1 game out of him and he got injured in that 1 game.
Rich,
so you do not own Ben Chilwell for many weeks before he gets injured.
But this is it. He's going to smash it in 28, smash it in 29.
If you think I'll get him in 29, you probably won't have a chance because he's only going to have 1 game in 28. so literally, he's not known for his long runs in the side. So
do you know what? If he gets a 15-point haul,
exactly, that's all you want in 1 game. We take him and run.
Take it.
Back to Estupinian.
I'll take the 15 points. Yeah, exactly.
Adam can bring in Rico Henry back. Competition time for our YouTube watchers. The game week 27 top scorer, would you believe it, was single game week Leandro Trossard, even though he wasn't playing on the Friday because the manager says he wasn't fit, but he came on and got, was it 3 assists or something crazy like that?
He scored more than all the doublers.
He did. Excellent. Unsurprisingly, no one guessed Trossard, unsurprisingly. But for this week's competition, for a chance to win one of our fantastic Fantasy Football Hub mugs, which Richley is proudly showing over his shoulder, press the like button. Make sure you are subscribed and then comment on who would be the top points goal scorer in blank game week 28. Rich, I'll come to you first. Who's going to be the top scorer?
Oh, golly.
Maddison, good shout. Adam, who do you think is going to be top scorer?
You can't say Maddison. You've just been convinced me
not
not to bring him in.
I love that.
I'm not allowed to say Kane.
What are you trying to do to me? You're playing mind games here.
It'd be mind games if he said Rico Henry. That would be
I was going to say. Yeah, I was thinking that. I might as well just cover my back here. I'm going to go Son.
Yeah, I think that's a really good shout. I'm gonna go for someone a bit left field. I'm gonna go with the algorithm for the hub, and I'm gonna go for Iheanacho. I'm gonna go for it. He's third. He's third on the points prediction, so I am gonna go for Iheanacho. Remember, if you want to win one of these fantastic mugs, we've given out so many mugs this season, unbelievable. Press the like button, make sure you are subscribed, and then comment with the top point scorer in Gameweek 28. Looking down, Michael Brooker, Ben Davis. What a random good shout that is. Popo says Chilwell. Mikael Paulson says Philip Billing. Ron says Watkins. Alex says Solanke. James Harden says Marino. Matt Henney says Bossard. Some really interesting picks there. And that is it from us for this week. So thank you to everyone who has joined in the chat. Fantastic as usual. We really, really appreciate it. Those who are watching back and those listening on the podcast version, your support is very much appreciated. Just a reminder, our My Team feature that shares your personalized recommended transfers every week specifically for your team using artificial intelligence is now live on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk and is free for 7 days for all to use. Give it a go. It's brilliant. It is actually recommending that I sell Haaland for Watkins this week, believe it or not. Members also get access to Ben Krellin's exclusive planner, the two very best FPL tools combined, and free for 7 days. We also have double game week guides, best wildcard teams, best free hit teams, everything else you can possibly ask to win at FPL at fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. Go check it out. We also have a Discord server. If you are on Discord or if you want to chat FPL with the guys from the hub and about 600 or 700 other FPL enthusiasts, there is a link in the description below as well. So go and jump on the Discord server. And again, absolutely free. Adam, thank you so much again for this week. Brilliant insight. Where can people get hold of you?
On Twitter, at Hopta Stats.
I still think you're going to captain Watkins this week. When you've had a pint with your friend, you'll have that. You know that like hit moment where you're just like, I'm just going to do it.
But deadline's Friday, isn't it? So
what's your prediction? What's your score prediction for that Bournemouth game?
Either 1-1 or 2-1 Villa. Okay. I would go with. I think both teams will score, and I think Villa won't lose. So that's what I'd go with.
Some superb punts in the chat before we go. Craig, Emerson Royale, Pender says Felix. John Walker says Bazunu. I think you're hoping for a penalty save there. Daniel says Buendia. Matt Woolley says Nonto. Sean Reed, Pedro Porro. Some absolutely great.
I like Pedro Porro. I like that.
Yeah, some really, really good things there. Rich, thank you so much as usual. Where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter.
And don't forget, you can get access to Rich's exclusive team reveal on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk free for 7 days. Just go and join if you haven't already. It's absolutely superb. My handle on Twitter is at FFH_Fergie. So this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. We've also got videos from Big Man Bakar. He does his team reveal on here every week, as does Abdul. Heisenberg has been on this week, I think, as well. Get on there. Some incredible videos. If you liked what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast. Give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and leave a comment. Give us 5 stars. We will be back in 2 weeks. We have a break next week, chaps. We'll be back in 2 weeks as we look ahead to the legendary double Game Week 29, which is going to be just sensational. I cannot wait. In the meantime, the very best of luck for Game Week 28, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.